Well, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakewood City Council for Monday, May 17th to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Boki has been excused. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Whalen is joining the panel at this time. And Mayor Anderson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, the first item on the agenda is proclamations and presentations. And the first item of business there isn't always joyous because we're losing a great partner of the city of Lakewood. And we'd like at this time to recognize Colonel Retired Thomas G. Knight, the Chief of Staff, retiring at JBLM. Greetings, Tom. Thanks for joining us. So as I indicated, just as a background, over the last 14 years, the city of Lakewood has had the opportunity to work with Tom Knight, kind of the glue that was holding things together for continuity, at least at JBLM, as a senior civilian employee at JBLM, working in the Garrison Command Office. And Tom has retired once as a colonel from the United States Army, and he's retiring again from his civil service position. Worst thing I can say about him is he lives in Lacey. But I'd like to read this proclamation on behalf of the City Council. Whereas Thomas G. Knight, Colonel Retired, United States Army, achieved extraordinary accomplishments encompassing more than 44 years in federal service, culminating as the Joint Base Chief of Staff for Joint Base Lewis McChord. And whereas his services as a highly decorated officer in the United States Army spanned 30 years and included assignments with infantry, special forces, and civil military operations units. And whereas during his 30 years of service, he received many decorations and badges to include the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Joint Service Achievement Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, CIB, which is Combat Infantry Badge, CAB, EIB, Master Parachutist Badge, Special Forces Tab, Scuba Badge, and the Pathfinder Badge. And whereas Colonel Retired Knight is a graduate of the National Defense University's National War College and the U.S. Air Force Air Command and Staff College, holding a doctorate in public administration and advanced degrees in political science, international relations, and national security strategy. And whereas the Joint Base Chief of Staff, as the Joint Base Chief of Staff, he used his many talents to provide superb leadership advice and continuity to 6 garrison commanders, 8 Army and Air Force senior service component commanders, and to a civilian workforce of over 2,483 employees. And whereas Colonel Knight's outstanding federal civilian service spans from 2007 through 2021, totaling over 14 years. And whereas Colonel Knight is universally recognized for his uncompromising values and ethical foundation for leading by example, sound reasoning, and creative skills for solving complex challenges and problems associated with providing mission essential services. Whereas Colonel Knight worked tirelessly with the city of Lakewood and surrounding leaders to promote community relations and negotiated hundreds of solutions to shared challenges with mutually beneficial outcomes for the entire region. And whereas he was instrumental in the formulation and establishment of the South Sound Military and Community Partnerships, supporting, establishing, and leading many initiatives to benefit our service members and their families. And whereas through his SSMCP leadership role, he enabled the partnership to establish and pursue legislative priorities with the state of Washington that resulted in a $500 million I-5 corridor improvement project that will alleviate traffic congestion near JBLM by increasing the roadway capacity in each direction through the 6-mile JBLM corridor. And whereas Colonel Knight provided the leadership to develop a memorandum of agreement that outlines the action plan to resolve encroachment in the McCord North Clear Zone. And whereas Colonel Knight was instrumental in partnering with the City of Lakewood and SSMCP, that resulted in the creation and funding of a new federal law, the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, DCIP. And whereas Colonel Knight also guided SSMCP to secure Office of Economic Adjustment funding to address traffic, housing affordability, and availability for military services in their family, impact of light pollution on flight and many other military training operations. And whereas during his tenure as Joint Base Chief of Staff, Colonel Knight administered the investment of over $2 billion in federal funds, BILCON money, in a wide range of significant military construction projects on JPLM, ranging from transportation, housing, barracks, 6 elementary schools, training facilities, and recreation amenities that address and ensure our service members and their families are properly taken care of. And whereas Colonel Knight's exceptional career helped make JBLM the premier and most diverse installation within the Department of Defense, the station of choice for both Army and Air Force service members, and a committed partner to the City of Lakewood and the surrounding communities. Now, therefore, the City of Lakewood Council and the citizens of the City of Lakewood hereby express their deepest appreciation for Thomas G. Knight, Colonel retired U.S. Army, for his exemplary accomplishments and for setting the standards for which quality leadership, both civilian and military, should aspire to emulate. Proclaimed the 17th of May, 2021, Don Anderson, Mayor. Tom, we'll give you a virtual round of applause, and you can unmute your mic, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm honored and I'm humbled, and I sincerely appreciate it. Being mentioned in the same voice with the accomplishments that a lot of other people actually did, and I just was along for the ride. So I would just take the opportunity to say that JBLM has no greater partner than the City of Lakewood, and the current leadership there has just been steadfast in looking at regional issues and finding partnership solutions to those. So I'm humbled to have been a part of that, and I really sincerely thank you for that honor. And I will occasionally appear in Lakewood to do some shopping every now and then. So I haven't forgotten about you guys, but it's not too bad down here in the city of Lacey, and I'll pass it on to the city leadership as well. But thank you sincerely.
Well, thank you, Tom, and we'll miss the fact that as one of the civilian leaders in the Pentagon has said from time to time, we look to you to de-dork things. You were the person that if there was a stumbling block, we could count on to have a great suggestion for how to get around the problem, finding a way to yes. And I think that probably might have been your special forces background more than your public administration background, because it's an attitude that sometimes is hard to find, and we really appreciate it. So
thank you very much. Okay.
Our next item of business is a proclamation declaring May 16th, 2021 through May 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. And for this, we have Mr. Paul Busich, our Public Works Engineering Director. Good evening. So there is a week. I know this is actually fairly widely celebrated across the country. Recognizing professionals tear up our streets, put things on the ground, do all sorts of things that are really a core function of municipal government and need to be done. But with their engineering background, they kind of lay low. So we bring them out once a year and give you a proclamation to recognize all the great work you do to make us look good. So whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, quality of life, and well-being of people. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and maintenance workers, and are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our transportation, water, sewer, storm drainage, streets, buildings, and other structures for our residents. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of Lakewood residents greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the city's Public Works Engineering Department showed their commitment to maintaining continuity of service during the COVID-19 pandemic by continuing essential services, including inspections, infrastructure review, and planning. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, the Lakewood City Council do hereby proclaim the week of May 16, 2021 to May 22, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the city of Lakewood and urges all citizens and civic organizations to recognize the contributions which public works personnel make to everyday health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Proclaimed this 17th of May, 2021, Don Anderson, Mayor. Thanks for accepting it on behalf of the department, Paul, and would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. I would like to say a couple of things. On behalf of my department, I thank the council for recognizing the hard work that goes into the engineering work, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that within the city of Lakewood, we have operations and maintenance staff who work in different departments who also are part of the APWA family. We also partner with other members outside of the city government proper, that the Pierce County Sewer Utility, the Lakewood Water District, the different utilities. All of these individuals are also public workers. They do the work, they do the job. You mentioned earlier you drag us out once a year, and I thank you for the once a year, not more often for recognition. Most engineers do not like being called out for the work that they do, but I agree with you. It's utterly important, the work that we do, and I'm so proud to be in this profession and work with the people that I do. They're very dedicated to the community of Lakewood, and again, I thank you for this recognition tonight.
Well, thank you. We appreciate all your work and the fact that your crew did plow through COVID quite literally. So,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Our next item of business under proclamations and presentations is a business showcase. Tonight we're showcasing Merit Construction, and for this, I believe we have Tammy Berklid, a principal, and E.J. O'Donnell, business development manager. Making progress.
Hi.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We have EJ Skyping in here, so zooming in. There you are. Welcome.
I have to apologize if anyone is able to hear me. I unfortunately don't have service. I'm not able to hear you at this moment.
So we can hear you a little scratchy, but we can hear you and we can see you. Thanks to both of you for joining us. We're recognizing Merit Construction tonight as our business showcase for May of 2021. And it's always a pleasure to recognize businesses in the community that add to, in Merit's case, physically add to the community, but provide living wage jobs for folks and participate in many community activities. So thank you. Founded in 1957, Merit Construction is a local institution. As the South Sound has grown, Merit has been there to buttress the growth by building structures and attractions now treasured by their communities, from the Tacoma Dome and the Mountaineers Club in Tacoma to the Lake City Community Church and Boys and Girls Club in Lakewood. Merit's projects have a special focus on community. A defining element of Merit's business is their collaborative approach. Merit operates with a team build strategy, which involves learning about the project and working with the architect and the client before starting a project. That brings the experience of all parties to the table early. Look no farther than Merit's gorgeous projects in Lakewood to see the fruits of that approach. The city clerk will now share a video highlighting the business showcase of Merit Construction.
My name is Tammy Berklet, and I'm the principal at Merit Construction. We've been in business since 1957. We moved to Lakewood in 1987. Construction has changed a lot in the last 25 years, but it was not as friendly, I think, as it is today. Well, team build, I think, is what we do better than anyone else. We've been doing it longer than anyone. And I believe that construction moves at the pace of trust. And if you don't have trust, it's a very slow, arduous process. When you have someone that you believe in, everybody, is happy at the end of the project. Yeah, I think Merit is about building the future of our communities. As you can see in our portfolio, we've built the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCAs, the Mountaineers Club. It's evidence that when we build something, we want it to be part of the future. I think it's really obvious that great things are happening in Lakewood, and we've been talking with the city and hearing what their plans have been. We've seen some of the drawings, and I think there's great things coming, and we're just excited to invest and build the future of our community here.
Well, thank you for participating tonight. On a personal note, I'd like to say that actually 50 years ago, as a high school senior, I delivered food to the Poodle Dog in Fife. So that's not quite as far back as the Zarellis went, but it's a good chunk of the history of the family and that family and the company. So I did that for several years while I was going through school and learned a little bit about the burgeoning construction company at the same time. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being in business and doing great projects here in the city of Lakewood.
Yeah, we're so grateful to be honored in this way and to be associated with Lakewood, to be associated with the future of Lakewood, as well as the past. We've been in business in Lakewood as long as Lakewood has been a city, and we're proud to be part of it. And we're just very honored that you would recognize us. So thank you.
Well, thank you for all you do. We look forward to future successes.
Absolutely.
So before we move to public comment, I'd like to make a point of personal privilege, one more proclamation. Today, the 17th of May, is quite literally Ssmcp. So if you happen to have Norwegian blood, you'll know what that means. But it's Norwegian National Day. I didn't wear my button.
Well, if you didn't notice, last name is Berklid, so we do have Norwegian blood as well. So I get it.
Well, thank you. So now we're going to move to public comments. Public comments are accepted by mail, email, or by live virtual comments. You send your comments in advance by mail or email to Brianna Schumacher, City Clerk at 6000 Main Street, Lakewood, Washington 98499, or to B. Schumacher at cityoflakewood.us. Comments received up to 1 hour before the meeting have been provided to the council electronically. Madam Clerk, is there anything in the way of submitted comments?
Mayor Anderson, there were no comments received in advance of this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Well, that doesn't preclude you from commenting. If you would like to provide a virtual comment, you need to join the Zoom meeting as an attendee by calling on the telephone to 1253-215-8722, which is on the screen. Oh, and entering the meeting ID 868-7263-2373, or visiting zoom.us and entering that same meeting number 868-7263-2373. On entering the meeting, please enter your name or other chosen identifier and use the raise hand function to be called upon. When you are unmuted, please provide your name and city of residence, such as Michael Brandstetter, Lakewood, Washington. And each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Once your public comment is over, all attendees on Zoom will still have the ability to raise your hand for the duration of meeting, but you will not be called upon or acknowledged, and your microphone will remain muted, except for that 3-minute period when you're called upon to speak. So, if I can get back to the participants, we have attendees. The first person who has raised their hand to speak is identified by a telephone number ending in 2173. You have the floor, and please identify yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi there, Mayor Anderson and council members, and well, I guess happy Norwegian Constitution Day. Hope you're enjoying a serving of lutefisk or lefse. So I just wanted to call in. I'm Julian Wheeler, resident of Lakewood, as chair of the Pierce County Accessible Communities Advisory Committee. Just to sort of give you a way ahead of time an announcement of our next month, rather our next meeting, regular session, Tuesday, July 13 at 9 o'clock in the morning. It will be on Zoom, even though I've heard of news of the state reopening by the end of June, but it's going to be Tuesday, July 13 on Zoom. I will submit my email address at some point between now and then. And we're looking for new members, new ideas. We're carrying out the state mandate is from the Accessible Communities Act of 2010. And I just wanted to add some additional flavor. Tomorrow, you may recognize the 41st anniversary of Mount St. Helens, and kind of brings to mind about disaster preparedness. And I would like to encourage the city of Lakewood, among others, to develop plans that would increasingly better serve people with disabilities, particularly those with physical mobility disabilities. And, so that whether it's emergency planning or whether it's a Siete de Mayo parade, which I've seen historically, or celebrating the mayor's coffee clutch, I guess that's accessible. I've been to those. Thank you for the coffee last week, Mr. Mayor. I look forward to some great ideas. Maybe we can touch base more one-on-one, but I look forward to working with you. And Mayor Anderson, you said 50 years ago. I'm shocked. I thought you were 50. I thought you were the youngest member of the council. Maybe I'm wrong. So Anyway, thank you very much, and have a good day.
The next person who's signed up to speak is Dennis Haugen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, here's the latest news. Seattle is going to celebrate the 1-year CHOP development. In other words, they're going to celebrate 1 year since anarchy, which seems to go on all the time there. Even more deep, probably only about half of you know that the Biden has taken the border down and made it open, and there's tremendous traffic coming across the border, and they drop off little kids, so the customs have to take care of them, and then they bring in their carloads of drugs or truckloads of drugs. And it appears that Washington is moving closer and closer to getting in bed with the drug cartels. Lawrence Jones on Fox News did a very extensive video of Seattle again. And what's interesting is they have a homeless camps that are on both the park and the school, next to the schools. And guess what? Neither the school or the city wants to remove them. They point fingers at each other. That's all Democratic controlled operations there, Democratic Party controlled, right? That's really getting in bed. And the cartels love to get into your schools. And there's all kinds of regulations and stuff that makes it difficult for the police and everybody else to detect what's going on. In other words, the school is a market for the drugs, and those drugs are mean. That fentanyl, it's not an easy drug. If you get overdosed on fentanyl, you will most likely never be normal again. It's a physiological problem that will stay with you for a lifetime. And you be like an Alzheimer's patient only in your teens or your 20s. So, I don't know when you're going to get the gumption up. I know our governor, she'll jump right on stuff like that. But she's a Republican. It was interesting. Maxine Waters flew to Minneapolis to threaten the jury after they had just were heading for the jury box. Do the Democrats really want justice for Black people? No, I don't think they do. I think they want to cause trouble. I think they want to be trouble. I think they've done more damage to more Blacks than the Ku Klux Klan ever could. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Chris Giraldus.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you very much. My name's Chris Giraldus. I'm with LeMay Pierce County Refuse. I live in Graham, Washington. And I wanted to talk tonight about the program that we have partnered with Mary Ridge Children's Hospital. It's Carts for Kids program. I'm hoping that you guys will be able to get on board and stand behind this and help us promote it within the city of Lakewood and the community there. We have the ability as two garbage companies, being Waste Connections, Murray's, and LeMay. We service over 150,000 residential customers. Your city alone makes up roughly 15% of those customers, which is very large. We started this program about 2 months ago. We've got great support so far. It's been very successful. In 2 months, we've got 183 donations, equaling about $36,600 to Mary Ridge Children's Hospital. Our goal is roughly in 5 years, we'd love to have 5% participation, which would raise $1.5 million. We really feel that we can't do it without you guys. We'd love for you guys to open the opportunity for residents in Lakewood to participate in this program. It's a 100% donation. We provide the cans already. So what we've done is we've simply purchased purple cans that have the Mary Bridge and Waste Connections logos on them. And the residents can make a $200 donation to Mary Bridge Children's Hospital, and they will get a purple can. It's hand delivered by one of the management team with a nice thank you. There's no confusion. It's just replacing their current can. We do a swap out for them. The can is labeled just like their current can, recycling only, no glass. It's been a great success so far, and I know there's a couple other people that are going to do some presentation on it tonight, but I really hope you guys will, consider allowing us to offer this program to the city or the citizens of Lakewood. I know there's some people that have really, really wanted it and are concerned. We haven't been able to offer it, and that's why I'm here tonight to ask you to please grant that permission to be able to offer that in your city.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up is Rick Vale.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Rick Vall, and I live in Puyallup, Washington. What a great night to be here to hear Colonel Knight's resume. That was astounding. And I think it pairs nicely with what Chris just mentioned. I work alongside him at Waste Connections and LeMay Pierce County Refuse and help serve the residents of Lakewood through our safety and customer service. The Carts for Kids program was something that came up just out of a conversation on how we could not give back, 1 and 2 times here and there, small donations. We wanted to try to have a larger impact. And we all know that recycling is good for the environment. We all know that residents recycle and participate in the services we provide. So why not partner with, a hospital where so many of our kids get special care? I've had the privilege of delivering a number of the carts to families throughout the community, and I wanted to highlight a few of those, relationships right at the curb that I've been able to build while dropping off a purple cart. There was one where I dropped it off and there was a young girl, no more than 10 years old, riding her roller skates around, and I pulled the cart out of the truck and she's like, "Are you dropping that for me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, is this your house?" And her grandma had donated to Mary Bridge to surprise her daughter because purple was her favorite color, and it just all made sense. Another delivery I was able to do was to a 50-year employee of Mary Bridge Hospital. I pulled up to her house and dropped it off, and she came out of the house. What are you doing? I didn't order that." And I said, "Well, your daughter did. She bought it for you to congratulate you on your retirement." And what a great example of just connecting at the curb. Another one that I'll never forget, I pulled up to a house and the customer's cart was not at the curb, which I'm trying to swap them out to not further any confusion. And so I call the phone number and the gentleman answers and he says, "Yeah, I'm down in Arizona on vacation. You can go ahead. It's right behind my gate and grab it." And I was like, "Well, great. How did you hear about the program and why is it important to you? What's going on?" He said, "Yeah, this is my first vacation since my son had brain surgery at Mary Bridge." So he was like, "It's the least I could do to pay back to what that hospital, all the staff, the doctors and nurses have done." And anyways, instant relationships. So this is another way to connect at the curb, not just with recycling and everyday service that we try to provide safely in the community, but to have a deeper meaning and provide the support to Mary Bridge Children's Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who signed up is Steve Sawfield.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all. I'm Steve Sawfield. I'm from Fircrest, Washington. I actually work at Mary Bridge Children's Foundation, a member of Lakewood Rotary out there as well. I just wanted to lend my voice to that of Chris and Rick from Waste Connections. Waste Connections, you couldn't ask for a better community partner. They clearly put community first in all they do. Participated in a bike build with Lakewood Rotary, I think about a year or so ago. This Cards for Kids program was really their entire, their conceived idea. They put it together. They manage all aspect of the program. The result is dollars that go right into our Where the Need is Greatest fund, which helps provide care above and beyond kind of the basics of what insurance covers for patients at Mary Bridge. We hear so many wonderful stories, much like those Rick has shared with you this evening, from folks who take great pride in knowing, hey, we may not be able to do, a big donation or name a building or something like that, but we can do this little thing that supports kids, supports better care for kids in our community. And we get to kind of show our pride for representing that better care on our front step every day when we put our recycling can out. So we just want to thank Waste Connections. We hope you guys will give it some thought and just see if it's something that could fit for residents of Lakewood. We've been really mindful of, because it's something that Lakewood's not participating in, not advertising it to folks as an option in Lakewood, but we have had some folks inquire and just say, hey, please let us know when it's an opportunity. We'd love to participate. So I will yield the rest of my time, but I do thank you all for hearing us out and wish you a wonderful evening. Thanks.
The next person signed up is Amelia.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, but not very loudly.
Okay, hold on. I'm having technical difficulties. I'm going to disconnect from my speaker. Give me a second, please. Can you hear me now?
Very well.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Amelia Escobedo. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Today, I just wanted to read over an article about the Thomas family, and I'm here to speak about the Said Joaquin case. A federal jury in 2017 awarded Thomas's family $15.1 million in damages, including $6.5 million in punitive damages from Zaro Wiley and another officer, Brian Markert. The city settled the case after the verdict for $13 million. Wiley reported announced jackpot when Thomas was shot, and later told investigators that it was a freaking $1 million shot, according to the testimony at the Thomas trial and court documents. I have looked at all the documentation when the investigation was done, and it breaks my heart that nothing has been done for the life that was taken for Said Joaquin. Not only did you take 2 sons, these people are still suffering. I beg you to do something about this. I beg you to please have Officer Mike Wiley fired. This is what the family wants. This is what they keep saying. This is what needs to be done. This is what is morally right. Please do what is in your power to cause change, to give this family justice. Mike Wiley has done this before, and this is his second time, his second incident. How could you allow this again? And yes, I understand the first time this is a civil lawsuit. It doesn't matter if it's a civil lawsuit. It is still somebody's life. And I yield the rest of my time in silence for the family of Said Joaquin and his life lost. Thank you.
That's all the people who have signed up for public comment. If you would like to speak at public comment, please raise your virtual hand. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at public comment? Going for the 3rd time. You see anyone signed up, Ms. Schumacher?
Mayor Anderson, no one else has raised their virtual hand to speak this
Well,
evening.
seeing none, I declare public comment closed. We will now move to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
A, approval of the minutes of the city council meeting of April 19th, 2021. B, approval of the minutes of the city council study session of April 26, 2021. C, approval of the minutes of the city council meeting of May 3rd, 2021. D, motion number 2021-28, authorizing the award of a construction contract to Northwest Cascade Inc. in the amount of $795,912.29 for the Maple Street Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. E, motion number 2021-29, authorizing the approval of expenditures in the amount of $300,000 for Phase 1 development and Phase 2 planning for the Chambers Creek Canyon Trail improvements. F, motion number 2021-30, authorizing the execution of an amendment to the agreement with SCJ Alliance for the Sealy Lake Improvement Project. G, motion number 2021-31, authorizing the execution of an agreement with DP Excavations in the amount of $140,672 for the 7127 150th Street Southwest Dangerous Building Abatement. H, motion number 2021-32, authorizing the execution of an amendment to the agreement with Saber Contractors, Inc. for the Fort Steilacoom Park Pavilion Phase 2 Improvement Project. I, items filed in the office of the city clerk. 1, Landmarks and Heritage Advisory Board meeting minutes of February 25th, 2021. 2, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2021. 3, Lakewood's Commons Advisory Board meeting minutes of April 1st, 2021. And 4, Planning Commission meeting minutes of April 21st, 2021.
Thank you. Is there any item which any member of the council wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Farmer, seconded by Ms. Moss, that we adopt the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries. We now move to public hearings and appeals. Madam Clerk.
This is the date set for a public hearing on the 6-year 2022 through 2027 Transportation Improvement Program.
To introduce this, we have Transportation Division Manager Ted Hill.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Again, Ted Hill, Capital Projects Division Manager. So tonight, the 6-year TIP, which you all saw last week. So the city is updating the 6-year Comprehensive Transportation Improvement Program, or the 6-year TIP. Updating the program is an annual process required by state statute meant to assure continued consistency with comprehensive planning goals and to evaluate current transportation needs. The public hearing tonight is an important part of the process, affording the public an opportunity to comment on the program prior to its adoption. The final draft of the TIP was developed over the past few months. It outlines over $176 million in transportation-related capital improvement projects the city intends to pursue over the next 6 years and beyond. The program does not include routine operation and maintenance activities or WSDOT-led projects. Those functions are taken care of outside of this program or funded by others. The 6-year TIP is a planning level document, and as such, the program is not fiscally balanced with respect to the current anticipated city revenues. Implementation of the TIP occurs through the city's biennial budget and the capital improvement program process. Recent grants have helped to maintain a healthy capital improvement program. Projects must be included in the city's current TIP in order to be eligible to receive most transportation-related project funding grants. This draft TIP was presented to the council last Monday, May 10th, during the study session. In addition, the document is on the city's website, and a request for comment will be made through social media. Any comments received tonight through public hearing or via social media will be reviewed and evaluated by staff. Any required modifications can be incorporated into the final 6-year TIP which is currently scheduled for adoption at the June 7th council meeting. And with that, we look forward to receiving any comments from the public.
Thank you. So in our COVID environment, we have virtual testimony. If you would like to provide live public testimony on this public hearing, you will need to join the Zoom meeting as an attendee by calling on the telephone at 1-253-215-8782. That's 1-253-215-8782, and entering the meeting ID 868-7263-2373, or going to zoom.us and join the meeting with the same numbers and identification code 868-7263-2373. On entering the meeting, please enter your name or other chosen identifier. Use the raise hand function to be called upon. When you are unmuted, please provide your name and city of residence. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Outside of the public hearing, all attendees on Zoom will continue to have the ability to virtually raise their hand for the duration of the meeting, but you will not be acknowledged and your microphone will remain muted except for the time you are called upon. The difference between this and public comment is that comment is limited to the public hearing on the 6-year transportation plan improvement program, TIP. So if we'll take the screen down and I can see the attendees. We have one person who is requesting to speak, Mr. Dennis Haugen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, when you're dealing with transportation, you're dealing with commerce as well as personal travel. In your case, as a state, as a sanctuary city, sanctuary state, the cargo coming over that road is of concern to the whole nation, especially since your state is so inviting to illegal activity. Many of the illegal aliens bring the drugs up those streets, as well as the sex trafficking. And your state and your cities just don't show any enthusiasm. You know, you show no energy to try to stop the sex trafficking and the drugs, the fentanyl, that even the Chinese are helping they're helping the cartel mix different drugs. They'll be putting it in your cookies. If you're not careful, you'll be eating fentanyl and won't even know it. And we'll have a whole state full of zombies. Because I believe...
Mr. Haugen, please limit your comments to our transportation plan.
Well, that's what I was just talking about, what was hauled over that transportation, those roads. You're talking about roads, right? And what gets hauled over those roads is very important. Whether it's something positive, legal, or illegal. And then in the plan, it should have some interest in what are you going to put in that transportation plan to try to detect that illegal cargo. Thank you.
That's all the people who have signed up to testify on the 6-year transportation improvement program. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Last call, does anyone else wish to testify on the 6-year 2022-2027 transportation improvement program? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. We now move to ordinances. Ordinance number 754, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 754, amending the 2021 through 2022 biennial budget.
For this, we have Assistant City Manager for Administrative Services, Todd Kraus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This item was presented to you originally on April 26th, and it was followed by a public hearing on May 3rd. So really, there was just one change since our my last presentation, and that was to increase the Colonial Plaza art to $150,000. Originally, the balance was $95,000, so we're just adding $32,500 from the Public Art Fund, plus $22,500 from the general fund. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Ms. Kraus? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on ordinance number 754.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Whalen, seconded by Ms. Bell, that we adopt ordinance number 754. Is there any further discussion? Well, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. We now move to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the council?
There is none, Mayor.
And new business. Is there any new business to come before the council?
There is none, Mayor.
So we'll move to reports by the city manager, Mr. Sawfield.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. First update, I'd like to call on our recreation program manager, Sally Martinez, to provide an update on public art. So city clerk, if you could.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to talk about the public art update for both the Colonial Plaza and the Signal Box wraps. I'm going to begin with the Colonial Plaza, and I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it okay? Okay. So I'm going to begin with just a quick summary. In December, the City Council gave direction to select a new artist, and a new process was recommended to use public art rosters to create a short list rather than sending out an RFP. Also, a new selection panel was created, and it's the Public Art Subcommittee, and it has 2 city council reps on it and a youth council representative, as well as business owners and members of the Lakewood community. So it's very well rounded. In May, City Council gave direction to increase the budget up to $150,000, and that was to allow for the expense of installation, engineering, and restoration. In March, 20 artists were selected, and of those, 12 opted in. Their portfolios were requested, 10 slides each, resumes, etc., and those were reviewed by the selection panel. And from there, 6 finalists were selected. In April, those 6 artists were invited to an on-site orientation at Colonial Plaza, where they learned firsthand from staff about the history and especially about the future plans at Colonial Plaza. The artists then were invited to give a presentation to the Public Art Subcommittee on what ideas they generated from that on-site visit and what they might do at that space. From there, in May, 3 finalists were selected. And they are John Fleming, Laura Haddad, and Thomas Strogan. They are a husband-wife team, and Peter Requiem. They're currently preparing 2 design concepts each and being paid a stipend of $1,500. In June, they'll be presenting their work to the Public Art Subcommittee in the last week of June. And in July, the Public Art Subcommittee will make a recommendation to the Arts Commission at the July meeting. Following consensus, the Arts Commission will forward a recommendation to City Council. It will include the selected artists, designs, the project budget, and timeline. In July, August, and early September, the artists will be given feedback to hone that final design. And in September, a contract for public art will be created and the artwork produced. We're thrilled to be on target for the timeline. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why we chose each artist. So John Fleming has a wonderful use of lighting. And he was the only artist that spoke about the 25th anniversary art contest. So he'd really done his homework. He went to the website, he looked at it. He was really intrigued by that and how it spoke to the diversity in the community and the theme of unity. He was eager to talk to our sister cities and do more research about this if he was selected. He suggested the use of bronze to warm up the space. He also suggested the idea of having something movable so that you didn't have to have the expense of securing it. He showed clever uses of saving money and letting the budget go farther, for example, using recycled materials. And his pieces are both interactive and can be seen from a distance, which is something that we're looking for in this piece at the Colonial Plaza. He shows the ability to bring the history of an area into his artwork. And this is an example. This is called Redmond's Erratic. And he looked way back into the history where they had these glacial formations. And he incorporated those into his art. So we were excited about his ability to really look into the history and create artwork that is interactive and engaging with the community. His past pieces are statement pieces as well and include great use of lighting. The Hattijurgen team are amazing. They're known for their very large, elegant, and grandly lit pieces. The committee was very impressed that they did their homework and their research. And they spoke a lot about the art being a precursor of what is to come at Colonial Plaza. So in a way, the artwork is really setting the stage for what's to come next. They are the ones that suggested the very clever use of the Gary Oaks as you come in on the right-hand side on the lawn, and uplighting them and using them as a natural gateway, as an inexpensive and effective way to call attention to the area. They do draw inspiration from the area, so their artwork is very site-specific. And they showed an ability to do a really wide array of shapes and sizes. They're really known for using natural elements like the sun and wind to change and make their work really dynamic as the day moves on. And their artwork's very responsive to the environment. It's iconic at a distance and eye-catching, but up close it has texture and is engaging. Peter Requiem, and don't be scared by this. He has a very definitive style, and he uses humor and whimsy. And this particular piece was for a fast food restaurant. It wasn't for a municipality, but he does his homework. He had driven out to go to the Historical Society and really dig down deep. It had been closed, but that's the type of person he is. And all the artists will be going to the Historical Society shortly to do more homework and learn more about Lakewood. But what he has is the unique ability to really distill the essence of a place into a piece of artwork. It's really rather amazing. And he has a very strong sense of community engagement. So while his pieces would have a very unique flavor to the city of Lakewood, and the committee did appreciate that he could tell us what was unique about Lakewood. And that is something that the subcommittee is looking for. We want the artist to tell us from their perspective what's unique about Lakewood. But what we also really was very meaningful in his work is that he made the comment that 80% of the population is not well schooled in art. And he wants to engage those people and reach them and reach just a really broad audience. So his artwork's always very accessible, and that's always top of mind for him. So what did we learn from the artists? From the artist interviews? It was a very insightful process. One thing that we learned from them is they really felt that the pavers were artwork themselves, and it is true. And then with further research, we found out that it's really not feasible to put footing on those pavers because it's an interlocking system, and it's really financially not feasible, and could potentially create more work in the end. They all mentioned how it's a very large sprawling space, and the artwork would serve it well to delineate the space and warm it up and make it kind of cozier areas. The idea of safety came up, that yes, you want it to be interactive, but yes, it's also a thoroughfare when there's not an event. And let's be really mindful that we aren't getting people out in a space to do selfies and forget that. So the concept of a gateway and an iconic gateway came up, and really they spoke to the fact that a project like that was something really iconic, is going to be over $200,000. Yes, they said we can create something that's both a gateway and interactive. We didn't have to pick one or the other. That was very appealing to us. We did find out that to build on the cement, so if you are looking at the theater and the pavers are in front of it, if you follow it to the right, then there's a point at which it becomes the cement slabs. And that is the point at which some of the artists envisioned art. And we would need an adjustment to the easement for that. And we're looking into that and inquiring about that now. This is an example of Peter's work where it's both art, but interactive and useful and a little funky. And from there, I'm going to move on to the signal box wraps. You know, the Arts Commission had put this in the public art program as one of the first things to do in 2022. But in light of COVID and the inability to do some of our special events, the Arts Commission wanted to use their funds to begin the signal box wrap program because it brings so much beauty to the area. It's relatively inexpensive and it's accessible to people and gets them excited about art. So at this point, we have selected 4 artists. The Arts Commission has selected 4 artists. And I'll just give you a reminder of what their work looks like. This is Rosa Cruz and her colorful rocks at the lake. She's done signal box wraps, so it was nice she did it in a way where it shows the panels. And her second submission was wildflowers. Susan Russell Hall said we can use any of her paintings. And these are some of the flowers that we really like. The caveat to this is that we don't know if they'll translate, so that remains to be seen. Christine Westfall, her Mount Rainier was chosen. And then there was some art for consideration. Again, Rosa Cruz and her tribal pattern quilt. We thought this might be nice in the International District. And Leslie White and Katie Dean's Leap of Faith. I'll just remind you that the locations we're looking at are in Springbrook. That would be our first priority, with the intersection of Bridgeport and San Francisco Avenue. We're also looking at Bridgeport and 108th, South Tacoma Way and 84th, Steilacoom Boulevard, and Lakewood Drive. We're currently working with Print Shop Northwest to hone the specs needed for the artwork. Thank you. That's my update, and I'm open the floor for questions.
Questions for Ms. Martinez? Mr. Branstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Martinez. I really appreciate the update, and you know, the timeline seems very good. I had a couple of questions to just make sure that I understand. When we made the change to go to a new set of artists, that the artists that we're now in discussion with, we're thinking about various places in the Colonial Plaza, whereas previously we had been focusing in artists at the entry point off of Gravelly Lake Drive. And so in terms of the proposals, and I guess that each artist is going to present 2 proposals to the committee, that their proposal will include where in the plaza it would go, and we're not being directive with that. We're going that way. Is that right?
That's correct. We moved away from the gateway, being specific about it being a gateway. It's an option, but we're opening it up to where the artists feel it would be a good place. And in some respects, they're limited because of the pavers. So it's just the planter box areas, the gateway areas, and the cement areas.
And so my other question was about the pavers. Was the suggestion by one of the artists that a piece might be probably not easily movable, but movable in that it's not permanently embedded in the ground? Was his concept being able to set something on the pavers without disturbing them?
Correct. Correct.
And the committee is open to considering that.
Absolutely. It was very clever.
Okay. And my last question had to do with the Gary Oak trees and uplighting them. That's something that came out of the discussions, but it would be something separate from the work of art we're looking to commission. That would be something that would be the Arts Commission might recommend that the city do as in addition.
My thought was not necessarily that it could be part of the Hada Drogan proposal and be tied in as part of their proposal.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, anyway, I thank you. I thank you for the update. I'm glad we've got a robust committee of people with knowledge and opinions that are gonna help us get to where we want to be, and I'm also glad that we have you facilitating this whole lesson. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And before I close, I did want to mention that our youth council member, I'm so pleased, Ariani, has been so vocal so solid in her opinions that I know are very representative of all the youth. And it was wonderful to see that and have that to help guide us.
Do you know, is she a senior or an underclassman?
I'm not sure.
I'm wondering whether she's going to be here to see the end result.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Ms. Farmer.
Thank you. This is exciting, this new slate. Do you know if the uplighting of the Gary Oaks, if that piece or portion was chosen, it would meet our lighting standards for the Dark Skies Initiative, and I'm assuming.
Yes, anything that's proposed will have to meet all our rules and regulations. And if it'd be helpful to include that for the artists, that would be nice. That's a nice reminder, and something that would be, we don't ever want the artists to get too far along in something and then learn about a regulation we hadn't told them.
Right.
I have not discussed that with them.
Also, if the name of the Colonial Plaza were to change in the future, I don't think any of the projects that I've seen so far are tied to that particular name or theme. And so I just wanted to make sure that, I don't know if the Arts Commission has had that discussion.
Right, so that has come up, yes. It came up because it was mentioned by some of the artists. I think I mentioned to you, we had an artist that refused to be considered because of the name. And we're so fortunate at this point that it's not ingrained in anything yet. And we have discussed it, and I believe that next step is for that discussion to take place with City Council. I'll defer to the city manager and mayor for that. But it's on our radar, and the artists are, it was discussed with them as well that the name may change.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thanks for the update. I would note that I with no art training whatsoever, appreciated the ingenuity and creativity of the wraps. I did see one this weekend somewhere else that I did a double take at. It was actually a rhododendron wrap. There wasn't much imagination, but it looked like it belonged with the rest of the bushes that were on that corner.
Yeah, they run the gamut, between like storybook and fantasy to nature.
Yeah, well, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll go back to Mr. Caulfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of updates, but I'd like to start off with just a quick review of your agenda, draft agenda for your the continuation of your City Council retreat that is scheduled for this Saturday, May 22nd. And I would ask City Clerk Schumacher, if you could help me with that and pull up the first page, and I'll just do a talk through real quickly here. The key objectives, and by the way, I'd like to say that this agenda is, really includes or continues the retreat's agenda from March 27th. So it's the exact same items, though, some of the, how we've consolidated some of the items together may have changed a little bit, but it's essentially the remainder of the agenda that was not covered as part of your March 27th retreat. So again, the objectives are the same, to discuss City Council priorities, and then to begin refining your City Council goals for 21 and 22, as well as possibly looking out to 23 and even 24 if you wished to do that. It will kick off with a brief welcome, and then an icebreaker activity for the council. And then the bulk of the meeting is actually priority setting. And you can see the items there. And by the way, I want to thank the mayor and the council for participating in the survey in advance of the retreat. So we got the last survey in on Sunday. So we hope to be able to compile those results and get those out to you, hopefully in the next few days. But if not, certainly as part of your packet later this week for Saturday. It'll also include just a brief summary of what occurred on March 27th. Also, what does the city look like post-pandemic? And then also, a review of threats, weaknesses, opportunities, and strengths. And then I know the council, from continuation from your last retreat, would like to have a discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then if there are any other items as an outcome from the survey. So you can see there, we have 2.5 hours set aside, but certainly if the council wants to spend more time or less time on that, that's certainly your prerogative. Then we'll take a little break. And then from there, spend about an hour and a half, going through a priority setting process, and then also include updating your vision, your goals, and then setting the stage for your strategies. Once all that's done, hopefully we will have some good, strong direction from the council. We will then go back, compile all of that information, update it, and then we'll probably look to schedule as part of a future study session to bring that back for further council review, similar to what you've done post past retreats. So that's where we are. And certainly if the council wishes to make any changes or updates to your agenda, certainly this evening would be a good time to do that. Also, the packet material will also include the material that was included last time as well that was not discussed. So with that, Mayor, I just wanted to review that. But if there's again any changes or updates from the council, this evening would be a good time to do that. So maybe I'll turn it over to you for a moment.
All right. I think it's generally inclusive. So when do we expect the materials to come out?
So hopefully later this week, if not sooner. Okay. Certainly by Thursday. That's our goal.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Back to you, John.
Thank you. Moving on to the pandemic, I'm sure everybody's aware that the CDC came out with a ruling that if you have the vaccination, you don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to practice social distancing. Likewise, the same day, it was Thursday, the governor came out with a ruling essentially saying, yeah, the state is going to adopt those same federal standards. And also, beginning tomorrow, the state as a whole is going to move to phase 3. And then the state as a whole will essentially reopen on June 30th, which is less than about 7 weeks or so from now. The caveat is the governor would like to see the vaccination rate be at 70% statewide. Currently statewide, residents who are fully vaccinated total about 35% of the population. However, there's another 46% who have taken at least one dose. So you add those two numbers together and we're at 81%. Within Pierce County, we lag a little bit behind. Residents fully vaccinated in Pierce County as of this week total 28%. However, another 37% have at least one dose, bringing our countywide total potentially up to 65%. Also, the cases per 100,000 in Pierce County are still high. However, they did decrease for the first time in a number of weeks from last week. They're down to 365 per 1,000. What does that mean? If you recall, under the governor's metrics, that would mean we should be in phase 1. But again, we're moving to phase 3, and then we're going to be, again, the governor is going to be opening up all activities on June 30th. Likewise, hospitalization rates are at about almost 11%, which is flat over where we were about a week ago. And so those are some of the key indicators and metrics that are out there. As it relates to the city of Lakewood, we do plan on opening all of our city facilities for some level for the public beginning on July 1st. Likewise, if everything goes according to plan, that would mean if the city council so desires, it would be recommended that you would begin holding council meetings in person as part of your first regular meeting in July, which would be July 6th. At the same time, from a city operations standpoint, we are still going to be allowing city personnel to work remotely, either full-time or part-time or a hybrid. And so those are things right now that our department directors are reviewing and considering. But long story short, we do plan on opening up our city facilities to the public beginning on July 1st. Also, just want to point out, there's a lot of vaccination sites in Pierce County. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, there has been either a drop off or a flattening of folks getting the vaccinations. It's just kind of peaked. However, in Lakewood, there is a vaccination site. It's run by the health department over in Lakewood Town Center, the former dress barn. And that's one of the few facilities which is actually exceeding the number of doses that are being provided there on a daily basis. Also, the city has been working with the county, and we're going to, as well as the health department. And so there'll be another vaccination site set up at Springbrook Park this Saturday from noon to 2, as well as at the Tillicum Community Center and a couple of Saturdays on June 12th, also from noon to 2. And those are both connected to a workforce development job resource fairs that the city is involved with a number of partners. I also want to let you know that the State Department of Corrections has reached out to all the cities in Pierce County, and they are looking to identify a location or locations to expand their work release program. And so they're asking all cities and the county, I believe, to help with that. So we're going to be, our team from Community and Economic Development, particular our planning manager, Courtney Brunell, and our assistant city manager for Community and Economic Development, Dave Buer, will be meeting with them and communicating to them. That's all well and good, but here in Lakewood, let us communicate to you what we have. We have Western State Hospital and all the facilities associated with that. We also have 2 methadone clinics. We have halfway houses. We have 113 adult family home businesses. And we also actually have 2 Department of Correction offices already in Lakewood, not running those types of programs, but we have that presence. So we're going to be following up with them on that. Also, the council might remember, and it's been a number of years ago, Department of Corrections did try and set up a similar facility on Western State Hospital grounds on Building 27. And they're not looking to do this now, but you might recall the city actually had that adjudicated through the court system to prohibit them from doing that. So at this point in time, we're not concerned that they're looking to add that activity down at Western State Hospital. But our position right now is that we have more than our fair share of these types of activities here in Lakewood. Sound Transit, they had their testing along the Point Defiance Rail this past Sunday, yesterday, May 16th. We haven't heard anything one way or the other. We're presuming it went very, very well. So if in fact it did, the Sound Transit will then be looking to identify a date, probably sometime in 2021 or early 22, to actually open up that corridor for Amtrak to begin its services once again. One of the things that we have asked Sound Transit is to, in advance of that, they plan on doing some pretty significant community outreach on that. However, also in advance of that, we have invited them, along with WashDOT Rail and even Amtrak, to come make a presentation to this body to give you an update and an overview of what they plan on doing and how they plan on implementing that. So once we get closer to whatever that date is, we will then backward plan and identify either as part of a regular meeting or a study session for Sound Transit and their partners to come in and brief this body on how that's all going to work and how it's going to come together. And those of you who were on the council back in 2017, they had done that previously, though it was led by WashDOT Rail. Once again, I would like to congratulate Ms. Kraus and her finance team for yet another award for recognition with the popular annual financial report, which is a kind of a summary of the comprehensive annual financial report. Actually, they call it something else now. But in any event, very, very positive recognition, again, of our finance team and the level of transparency and accountability that we as an organization have. I wanted to also let the council know, you've heard me say this before, so local Lakewood residents David Boyd 3 years ago submitted a request to name the Colonial Plaza, have it renamed to the Claudia B. Thomas Promenade. And that was done in conjunction with the policy that the city council had set up regarding the naming of public facilities, including plazas and parks and buildings and things along those lines. 3 years ago, the application that he submitted was deemed complete. At that point in time, you might remember he asked the council if you would waive the 36-month time period between the passing of an individual and the naming of a public area. And the council at that time said, well, let's follow our policy. So here we are, that 3 years has passed. Mr. Boyd is interested in still pursuing that. And since it is deemed a complete application and under your policy, I will be moving it forward to PRAB, the Parks Recreation Advisory Board. Myself and our Park and Rec Director, Ms. Dodsworth, feel that they're the best committee to be able to facilitate this, including taking public testimony and public input on that, and then providing a recommendation to this body. So that's where we are with that process. Mr. Boyd also has communicated to me that he would consider even other areas for renaming, like, for example, 59th Street or City Hall or the City Hall Plaza. And so what I plan on communicating to him is, if that's the case, then we will need something in writing, however brief it needs to be, if that's what he would also like PRAB to consider in addition to the Colonial Plaza. I would also like to communicate that Mr. Boyd is, of course, aware that the school district has renamed the former Mann Middle School after Dr. Thomas. And what he points out is that that renaming was in recognition of Dr. Thomas's role as an educator. His purpose of having a city asset renamed after Dr. Thomas is to recognize her role as an elected leader, not just in Lakewood, but regionally and here in Washington State. So that is his motivation and his background. So I figured I would share that with you as well. Lastly, the farmers market kicks off this Friday, the 2:30 through about 6:30 down at Fort Steilacoom Park. I think last count there was going to be about 60 to 65 vendors, if not more, down there. We expect it to be just as successful, if not more successful than last year. And so one of the things we were considering was, how do we do a ribbon cutting, but just kind of under still the phase 3 rules and all of that stuff. We've decided to put that off, and maybe we'll do some kind of recognition later on in the summer. But with that, Mayor and Council, that's my report.
Questions for Mr. Caulfield? Ms. Moss.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Caulfield, congratulations to the team for the award for the financial statement. That's awesome. I was going to ask if you could provide me with those vaccination dates and times and locations, and I will put it out on LMCC Facebook. Thank you.
Certainly, Councilmember Moss, and you might want to go to the city's Facebook page. We just put out another note regarding here in Lakewood where to go as well.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Farmer.
Have you thought about a way to technologically keep our virtual council meetings in case we needed to, but we're in a situation to need one or two council members to Zoom in? Would that be possible?
Councilmember Farmer, long story short, the answer is yes. We actually expect to continue to allow, for example, public comment and public testimony, for example, through public hearings to occur via Zoom or the telephone as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Unless the council has any objection to that.
Right. Mr. Branstetter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Caulfield, you mentioned we would be moving to a situation of where we would continue to be allowing employees who wanted to work remotely. And I was a little bit unsure, where are we placing the decision as to whether an employee can work remotely? Are we placing it with the employee or with the department head or with you? You know, how is that being managed?
Councilmember Branstetter, the way our current policy works, actually, we're making some minor refinements to it right now. But generally speaking, the way it works, if the employee is interested in working remotely, she or he will make that request through their chain of command. The department director will then review and make a recommendation to the HR director, who in turn will make a recommendation to myself. It's not something that the employee says, I want to do this and I get to do it. It's based on the employee gets to request it. And if it serves in the best interest of the city as an organization and how we deliver services, then we will allow it. If it does not, we will not allow it. One of the caveats, for example, is a couple of examples here. For example, you have some internet activity problems or connectivity issues. Maybe in your area, your Wi-Fi has gone down. Okay, pack it up and come into the office. You have some computer problems. There's some computer issues, and it might take a little bit for those to be resolved. Okay, that's fine. Pack it up and come into the office. So that's how we plan on addressing it. So it'll be at the request of the employee, but upon the approval of the employer.
So is there going to be when we have employees working remotely now, but is there going to be some announced date that says if you want to continue working remotely after July 1st, that you have to submit a request in accordance with the existing policy that always existed for working remotely?
Yeah, Councilmember Branstetter, we're working on that right now. I've already communicated to all of our employees that we plan on reopening on July 1. And right now we're reviewing and finalizing our policy, revising it, making some updates based on where the world is today. And then we expect to have that completed in the next week or so. And then that will then be made available to all employees, the beginning part of June. And then our goal is to try and have that all ironed out by the middle to latter part of June. Though that doesn't mean that an employee can't come back at a later date and request it.
And are you considering that this may require an MOU with one or more bargaining units?
Councilmember Branstetter, at this point in time, no, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Mr. Caulfield. We'll go to council comments. Ms. Moss. You're muted, Mary.
I'm good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Branstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was able to participate at the City Hall in the 100th anniversary of the United Ways drive-through food drive. There wasn't exceptionally busy, but it was was a successful event, and they passed on appreciation to the city for partnering with them to look through and be able to do that. That's really all that I have for tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say congratulations for Public Works Week. They do so much, and I think it's just a really good, it is celebrated nationally quite heavily. So it's nice to see that it's celebrated in Lakewood also. And then I was able to attend the virtual Ssmcp elected officials meeting last week, and I found that very fascinating, interesting. I love the collaboration and the partnership that we have with the military. So I look forward to being more involved. Thank you.
Ms. Farmer.
I wanted to see if there was interest on the council. I'd like to propose that we move forward with the Mary Bridge Carts for Kids program. When it was first presented to us months ago, I didn't understand, and now I do. And so I'd love to be able to move that forward.
I would like that too.
Dittos.
It sounds great. It's voluntary, right? It's just up to people who want to pay for a little extra can.
Yeah, donate $200, get a new can, is my understanding.
I'd be happy to do that.
I was wondering if there's a negotiating point here with Waste Connections to, if we accept a modification to their contract to allow this, if they would look to see whether there is a weekend this summer that we might get our third cleanup day.
They're not as charitable when it comes to their rates.
Yeah, well, I thought that they said they were a community-focused organization.
Thank you for that. I also had a chance to attend the virtual Ssmcp meeting, and it was wonderful. They're upcoming. We have a Community Service Advisory Board meeting on Wednesday and a Pierce County Regional Council meeting on Thursday, and also a Sex Offender Policy Board meeting on Thursday. So it's shaping up to be a busy week. Thank you.
Mr. Whalen.
I will ditto the comments on the Ssmcp meeting last weekend. Mary, you did a nice job chairing that. I thought the information was really pretty good. And I don't know, it was hard to tell how many folks attended that because we only had a limited number of folks on the screen, right? So the rest of us were kind of in the ether, but it looked like it was well attended, or sounded like it was. So kudos to staff on that. Upcoming events, we've got PCRC this Thursday. I will attend that. I want to give everyone a heads up about Rotary's auction. It's usually the Sportsman's Dinner time frame. This year it's going to be virtual. It's June 5th, which is a Saturday, and you can register online. I'll get some more information out to you, but it makes it fairly painless. They're going to do some fun things like charcuterie stuff and wine stuff, virtual, that'll get delivered to your home, and you get to enjoy it with friends, you know, in an online capacity. So they do good things, as we all know, for the community. So if we can support them, that would be great. We already talked about the Mary Bridge LeMay opportunity, which I think is a good one. You know, in terms of expanding the notice, I was wondering if they could just put a flyer in the bills they send us all monthly, because then folks who have the service could say, gee, that sounds great. I'll send it a flyer and I'll sign up. That way it's kind of out of our hands. We don't have to deal with the logistics, and they can kind of take care of it.
You still get a paper bill, sir?
I do, actually. I get a paper bill. I pay it electronically, but I get a paper bill.
You gotta work on that.
Yeah, I like paper. The comment about the vaccination site in Lakewood, I have some personal knowledge. I took my 15-year-old there yesterday, Sunday, the former Dress Barn site. Indeed, it was really well run, I have to say. Very efficient. The people were very pleasant. It was clean, very orderly. And I held my little daughter's clammy, cold hand. She got her shot, but she was a trooper. So it's a good thing for all of us to do as best we can. And then finally, on the art presentation tonight, I think it was great information for all of us. I thank the council for their willingness to kind of step up and enhance the funding. As you can see from the art that we were all looking at and the price tags, this stuff is just, it's expensive. So the fact that we have a little bit more has really helped us get something that will be certainly more iconic and reflective of the great that Lakewood is and continues to be. Finally, in terms of that area, I know, Mr. Caulfield, that there's been some comment about the Gary Oak area, that the city has some right of way in that area. And I know we've seen a little map of it. It's hard to define, but I know we have some of it. And the reason why I point that out is to the extent we have some of it, the area that we do own as a right of way, we should try to maintain as best we can, similar to what we do on the right-hand side, because it looks like an overgrown patch of weeds. And if it's city property and it's a right-of-way area that we want to be proud of, it should reflect the proud nature of what we do in all our other right-of-way areas. So that's my comment.
Thank you. So on Tuesday, after Coffee with the Mayor, I had the privilege of attending, as did Mr. Caulfield, the 7th Infantry Division Change of Command, where Major General Burleson turned over command to Major General Smith. General Burleson isn't going very far, though. His next assignment's at Fort Bragg, but they're holding him here and slotting him in as a Deputy Commanding General for I Corps because there's going to be a gap. I don't forget what the reason is. And he will be acting Commanding General of First Corps for a limited period of time before he goes to Fort Bragg. And then I emceed the elected officials conference for Ssmcp. I heard there were about 120 attendees, so it's a pretty good virtual turnout. Our virtual events have been particularly well attended. The one thing I thought that was different than any other, maybe because it's virtual, is that Mr. Adamson yielded the floor to a series of elected officials, which when you've got a time clock on is always very, very dangerous. Normally at a live event, only the people on the program get to speak. So that was a risk, and it didn't go on too long. So that was good. Is there anything else to come before the council? Seeing none, we're adjourned. See you next Saturday.